Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. I hope you have had a good week. I hope you have stayed sane and stayed healthy this week. And, I love featuring businesses, small businesses, charities who are stepping up to the plate during this pandemic. And it's just amazing to me how much people are doing just to help each other, and how many organizations we're learning about that may not have just come about because of the pandemic, but they have been highlighted because they are doing so much also during this time. And so today we are speaking with Mindy Richenstein. She founded Supplies for Success under the umbrella of the UJA Foundation of New York in 2002. It has grown from serving 68 children in just 1 year to more than 20,000 in the 18th year. And since inception, more than 100,000 disadvantaged children have received new backpacks filled with age-appropriate school supplies before the first day of school, so that they can start on a more level playing field and look to education as their pathway out of poverty. Mindy, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about why you started Supplies for Success.
Well, I guess I've always felt a deep sense of gratitude for all that I have had in my life. And I feel that with that comes a responsibility to give back. So that's how we got started.
Very nice. And so it's amazing how much you have done over all of these years. Tell me a little bit about what Supplies for Success does.
So what we do is provide backpacks, new backpacks. Everything we give is brand new backpacks filled with age-appropriate school supplies to disadvantaged children. Unfortunately, school supplies have become somewhat of a luxury for people who live paycheck to paycheck.
Right, exactly. And I don't think people realize that, just how expensive school supplies can be. And it's a shame that students should not feel that they could start on the same playing field as everybody else because of that.
Yes, and it makes me so sad to think of a child starting up the first day of school without a backpack, without a pencil and paper to take notes. That's not the way to start a school year, and how could they be expected to succeed under those circumstances or even feel good and hopeful about the coming school year?
Right, exactly. So what age range are these care kits made for?
So we started preschool, which, pre-K, which, is where there is education for grades ages 4, and we go all the way through grade 12.
Wow, that's amazing. And if somebody wanted to get involved and, say, build a care kit themselves or donate for a care kit, how can they get involved?
So I would just distinguish between care kits and the backpacks. The care kits have been our response to the pandemic. As far as the backpacks are concerned, at the beginning we were small, as you mentioned, only helped 68 children. But with the help of UJA Federation, we really got to grow. And so at the beginning, we just had our volunteers go shopping, at the big box stores for the lost leaders, the inexpensive products before school started. But in order to scale and really grow the number of kids we helped, we started connecting with suppliers, big importers who would actually send us in bulk all of the supplies, so that we no longer take donations of in-kind backpacks. But we do engage thousands of volunteers, and there are lots of ways that volunteers can help. We've really grown strictly through volunteers, including myself. I'm a volunteer too.
Now, when you started everything that you're doing for the COVID-19 pandemic and future crisis, what inspired you to do that? Because you are already doing incredible work with the foundation and the charity.
Thank you. Well, Care Kits were born out of tragedy. On March 5th, I lost my 37-year-old son to a ski accident. Of all things, on the Corona run at Eldora Mountain in Colorado. My son had moved to Colorado 4 years ago. It was his happy place. And he passed away. We were fortunate to have one of the last, if there's a silver lining, last in actual human funerals where people could attend. And 2 weeks after he passed away, my grandson, my 4-year-old grandson, who Eric adored, his nephew, his school was closed in New York City, and my daughter was saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with Austin all day? And I started to think about all of the little kids who were now going to be cooped up in cramped spaces, and how will they continue learning and growing? And that's where the idea for Care Kits was born.
Wow. Well, I'm extremely, extremely sorry to hear about your son. It's tragic. You're welcome. I can't even imagine. And, like you said, thank goodness, you at least got to celebrate him and his life, but there are no words. So I'm truly sorry about that. And I think that it is absolutely amazing that in a time like this, that you could still say, hey, let's do something for the good of everybody, even while you're mourning.
Thank you. I know Eric would want me to do that. And it's in his memory and his honor of his memory that we're doing it, and we're bringing some light during dark times.
Yes, absolutely. So to shift things a little bit to something a little more, filled with light and love, you were telling me that you have some of your family moving in with you soon.
I do indeed. We've all been self-quarantining. My daughter Lisa has been very protective of my husband Larry and I, wants to keep us around. So, but it's been a long time, and my daughter and her husband and my grandson Austin and Lisa's new baby, who was born just 10 days before Eric passed away, will be moving with us in the Hamptons on Saturday.
Wow.
In time for Mother's Day.
Yes. Well, how nice to have your family around you. Are you excited? Are you nervous about how, I don't want to say chaotic, but
we are definitely both. I'm mostly excited. I can't wait to hug and be together. My husband, on the other hand, is also very excited, but he says this place is going to look like a bunker. So it's going to be challenging, but well worth it.
Yes. And how lucky are you all? I mean, especially they're very lucky in order to have you by their side to help with the little ones, because what I wouldn't give right now to have some help at home. Yes. So, and then for you to have them with you during this time, I think is great. My parents are not that far away from us, but at the same time, they're afraid to have us come over there because my husband is still going into his office a couple days a week. And so, it's tough.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. Well, Andrew is working from home, and soon it's going to be from our home. And Lisa kind of put her business on the side while she's, spending 24/7 on childcare.
Right. Exactly. It's really difficult to juggle it all. And that's one thing I feel like moms really need to give themselves a break during this time, because you can just do so much in a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me again, where can everybody go to get involved with Supplies for Success?
Okay, wonderful. Well, you can always email me, info@suppliesforsuccess.org. You could also visit our website, which is www.suppliesforsuccess.org. And, we love volunteers, and we We absolutely have grown through volunteers, and we love fundraisers. It's easy to put up your own little fundraising page in less than 5 minutes, and I'll be happy to help anybody do it.
Terrific. And how can somebody, besides running a fundraiser, how can they volunteer?
Well, we definitely could use expertise. We just signed on this wonderful young woman, Erica Mierenberg, who has expertise in social media. So she's just doing all of our social media now. You could follow us on Instagram at suppliesforsuccess.org. To see her great posts. So we're certainly looking for other volunteers who have even a couple of hours a week to give us in PR, as actually Grant Communications has done and been wonderfully amazing. And we thank them very much. We also could use all kinds of expertise, tech expertise. I'm not so savvy, and bookkeeping, you name it, a nonprofit. So if anybody has expertise that they want to offer to us, we would love to welcome them.
Terrific. Well, Mindy Richenstein, thank you so much for joining me today, the founder of Supplies for Success, supplying backpacks to children who may not otherwise be able to afford school supplies at the beginning of the school year, and now also care kits during this pandemic. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Did you know that this week, between May 3rd and May 9th, it is Public Service Recognition Week? So this is when we recognize all of those firsthand, those people on the front lines, the first responders, people who are out there, not just during this COVID crisis, but all the time, whether it's the firefighters, the EMS workers, the doctors, the nurses. And so I am thrilled to have with me today Jessica Edgerton. She is the Director of Brand Development for Cooper Tires, and Elizabeth Field. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Gary Sinise Foundation. Now, the Gary Sinise Foundation, we've had them on the show before. They do so much in giving back to the first responders. So I'm really happy to talk to the both of you today. Hi.
Hi, we're so glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit, for those who are not familiar with the Gary Sinise Foundation, what do you do?
So at the Gary Sinise Foundation, it's our mission to serve our nation's defenders, veterans, first responders, their families, and those in need. We do this through 4 programmatic pillars and 13 initiatives within those pillars. We do a lot of everything. So I normally tell listeners or potential donors, if you're interested in work with World War II veterans, we do it. If you're interested in work with Gold Star families, we do it. If you're interested in, building homes for severely wounded heroes, we do it. And right now, we're concentrating a lot on our first responders, given the public health crisis. So we're busy. We're busy, and we're glad to be doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing work. Now, where does Cooper Tires come into play? I know you have had a partnership for a little while, Jessica. Tell me a little bit about why Cooper Tires sees their part in this involvement.
Absolutely. And I'd also like to echo Elizabeth's sentiments and say thank you for having us on the show and giving us the opportunity to really talk about this, but also recognize our first responders. For Cooper and Gary Sinise Foundation started working together because we really had a common interest in honoring those that we need to rely on and who serve our communities. And so when we started trying to figure out ways that we could really give back to first responders, we started a nationwide search, and we found the Gary Sinise Foundation, and we started working with them actually last year. And then last year, we donated tires to 3 fire stations across the U.S. And so this is our second year of partnership and discussing it here on the National Public Service Recognition Week. And this year we wanted to expand the partnership in what we did. So we're not just giving tires to fire stations this year. We're actually giving tires to EMT stations as well. And we hope to be able to donate to up to 20 stations across the U.S. So we couldn't be more proud and more thankful to work with the Gary Sinise Foundation and all of the amazing work that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. When you think about first responders and what they might need, people may not think of tires right away, but isn't that the biggest thing maybe that they might need? Because without their tires, they can't get anywhere.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I know a lot of people don't think about their tires all the time, and I get it. They're not the most exciting thing in the world, but tires are so critical, not just to your mobility, but also to your safety. They are the only 4 things on your car, your truck, your SUV that come into contact with the road. And so they're crucial, not just in getting you where you need to go every day, but in your safety. And the same can be said for tires on the vehicles of a first responder. We rely on them to get to the scene of emergency, to be there when called upon. They need working equipment, they need working vehicles, and as a part of that, they need tires that are safe and durable and are there for them to rely on so that they can be there for us.
Right, exactly. So if somebody is in the market personally for tires right now, are there any recommendations? Are there any tires that might just be good for the everyday mom who is running her kids all over the place and they have to be safe? I mean, everybody has to be safe, of course, but I feel like moms are always thinking about every little safety feature, such as the car seat and anything else that goes into the car, but may not be thinking, like you said, about the tires on the car.
Yeah, well, what we would recommend, tires are kind of like shoes. There's different types and there's different sizes depending on your vehicle, depending on the weather conditions that you're going to drive in, depending on the road conditions that you have. And as somebody who lives out in a more rural area and has a lot of gravel or more opportunities for less paved roads, they might need a different tire than, say, somebody who's living more in the Midwest and is doing a lot of commuting on the highway. So we really encourage you to speak to a sales associate at a tire shop or to go onto our website at coopertire.com, and we can help you find the right tire for those driving conditions, your particular vehicle, because it will have its own specified size, and just get you to the right place for what your needs are.
So tell me, how can people get involved with the Gary Sinise Foundation, and where can they go for more information?
I would encourage your listeners to go to GarySiniseFoundation.org, but I want to let your listeners know, too, if there's military personnel listening or Gold Star families or veterans and our first responders, visiting GarySiniseFoundation.org is where you can go to get information about how we can help you. So we're here to help, so don't be shy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica Egerton and Elizabeth Fields. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
My big relief during the week, or at least what I look forward to, is getting to talk to my good friend Marshall Stevenson, because he is a dad. He also has a 3-year-old, and he brings me laughs. He's a comic in New York City, and when things are better, he runs the New York Beer and Brewery Tour, which is just an amazing tour. You should go get your gift certificates for that now. But Marshall, thank you for joining me again today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Sure. So
in the same place that I've been. I like you.
I don't even know what day it is. I just every day I hope that I'm doing the best that I can be doing for my daughter, to keep her engaged, to keep her learning. And, I think it's really normal for us to just keep, I don't know, maybe doubting ourselves, maybe not, and saying, you know what, all these posts of, I think we talked about this the other week about moms grandstanding on Facebook and talking about all the great things they're doing with their kids. I think it is wonderful. But if you have a child who has a great big imagination like mine and loves to be amused by her dolls and making cupcakes and cakes for them all day, then great. And you know what? And I feel at times that I should be doing more. And then at times I say, just give yourself a break. This is learning for her. So how's your daughter doing?
Absolutely. She's doing great. My wife is completely stressed out that we're not doing enough, but I think she's doing great. Just as long as she doesn't watch Frozen 3 times in a day. Like then we're No, I think that it's, you know, at 3 years old, they learn through play, they learn through exploration. And so I think our job is to make sure they're engaged. Right. So if they're enjoying something they're watching, I mean, you want to limit that to some extent. If they're playing with something, if they're laughing, if they're enjoying this. What I'm starting to be concerned about is, you know, she has teachers at school who are saying she has to do the homework. And it's like, okay, honey, would you like to cut out a picture of a magazine and paste it here? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, then don't do it. That's fine.
Wow. Wait, she has homework in preschool?
Yeah, they're saying it's not homework. It's that the school day has been turned into Zoom.
Right.
So instead of them saying, okay, we're now going to cut out stuff and work on it here at school, they say you have to cut it out and work on it and then take a picture and send it to us. And I'm like, goodness. Well, I would certainly offer that, but if she'd rather do something else, then she could do something else. I don't think it's the time. I think I've always had some problem with accountability learning, meaning instead of just making something really interesting, and this applies to any age, instead of making something just really interesting, instead saying, well, you're going to be responsible for knowing this. So then you have to interested in. And so it becomes one of these things where I personally think they're learning more when they're enjoying themselves. So you want to give them the tools for them to explore and learn and help themselves, but you don't, as soon as they're bored with it, I wouldn't push. And that's what I think is going on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've heard that people are having their classes over Zoom and that they are getting homework, but I didn't realize that they're doing that for the 3-year-olds. And your daughter is in the next grade just because of where her birthday is compared to my daughter, who's still technically in daycare. But that is, that's crazy to me. And, but it's funny because I've been thinking. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I've been thinking about that too, because I feel like at school, she used to have an art time. She used to have a music time. She used to have a story time. And it was very structured. Whereas I am trying to incorporate all that here. We have been trying to do the music classes that we used to go to music together. We've been trying to do them online, but she watches them for a few minutes and then she runs away. But that being said, then the next moment she'll sit down in her playroom, she'll pull out her guitar and she'll start singing the welcome song. So I feel that she is getting it and she is learning just on her own accord. Yeah.
And I think that showing it to her and then letting her go when she's no longer interested in it is the right answer. Right. Not to make her watch the whole thing. But I think parents are doing that. They're saying we're going to try to recreate school when, look, so much has been taken away from them. So I think that, anyway, maybe I'm making 2 points. I think that they need to be engaged. They can't be forced to do stuff. I think the learning stops when they're through motions because they have to do it.
Right. I agree with you. And so did you see, you had sent me that article from the New York Times about being the fun mom. And it was about this woman who realized that when she kind of were splitting duties with her husband or just in general, that she was figuring out that she was doing more of the day-to-day type of work, like cooking meals and changing diapers and doing all of that. And that she wasn't the fun mom yet. Maybe the husband is the one that steps in and plays with the kids whenever he can. And so he becomes the fun parent.
The way you presented the story gives a little bit more credit to the mom than I think she deserves. I mean, I think the way the story went is that, they would come back for dinner and the mom had labored over this beautiful dinner, which was really healthy. And the kids would talk about how great the day was, spending it with dad playing capture the flag. And she's like, but I don't want to play capture the flag. But I have to say, like, if you've been taking care of a 3-year-old in the house without any help from people, you realize the challenging part is not cooking meals. The challenging part is having a good time with the child so the child's engaged. So come play with me. Yeah, it's harder to play, fake supermarket for an hour and a half. It really is. Than it is to sit there and make food, isn't it? I think it's a cop-out, and I think what was going on is she was having all those feelings. I think it was a little bit of guilt. I think the fact is, without the dad, those kids would be in much, much worse shape.
Well, no, I think, Stu, what I got from that, I found very relatable because I feel like I'm with the children most of the day, pretty much all of the day, except for an hour break in the middle of the day. So I'm the one disciplining them, feeding them, changing their diapers, making sure they go potty, like all of the basics and things that need to be done. So I was thinking this the other day that here I am having to come across as maybe the sometimes strict, maybe the sometimes mean mommy, because I'm always the one saying, we have to do this now, go on the toilet or this, do this or this, and it's like, I don't. And then, my husband might come in and have an hour and he just like goes crazy with them and plays with them. And, oh, she has so much fun. But yet then when it comes to disciplining, he doesn't do it and he just sits back. And so I do see where she's coming from in that, hey, we're kind of put into that role of having to be that not fun parent. And it may not be a role that we necessarily want, but it's necessary.
Well, I mean, I think that your issue is different then, because if your husband is only taking on 1 hour of the day and doing something that he finds fun with them, then the issue is that he's not doing 12 hours.
Right.
But that's the issue then. But I didn't see that as the issue in this. The issue seemed here like it was actually a breakdown, like down the middle. And like he took on the hours where they were playing and she took on the hours where she had to do the stuff like cooking. But I think cooking just comes down to it for me is I think cooking is much easier than playing games with a child for an hour. I think
it might be
because you have to. It's like, so that's the hard part. They're not, and when you're cooking, you can pre-cook 12 meals of peas and then not have to cook these for a week. Like the peas is not the good parenting. Like, let's put it this way: it's child or the child, and then you take the cooking away, and instead you order from the diner. Your child will be okay. But if you keep cooking with the child and stop playing with them at all, the child will not be okay. It's the playing and engaging with the child that's the more important part. So I thought it was a bit of a cop-out because what I read from it is the playing the capture the flag is challenging for her because she doesn't like it. So somebody else is doing the hard part. And now she's having these ambivalent feelings and writing an article in the Times saying like, but I don't it's like justification for her guilty feelings, but it's okay because I do all of these things, but you don't do the hardest part, which is really sitting down on the floor and saying like, okay, I'm going to pretend this is spaghetti. Let's pretend to eat spaghetti now, because that stuff is hard to push through for more than 4 minutes.
It is.
Cooking is easy, especially if you like cooking. I bet you that someone likes cooking. If you like
yes, I understand what you're saying.
Don't cook at all. Don't cook at all. The parents who don't cook at all, they can still be spectacular parents. But the parents who don't play with their kids cannot be spectacular parents.
I get that, but I didn't get from the article that she was saying, "Oh, this is harder than this." My whole takeaway was that these are her roles. This is what she does when it comes to her family, and she realized that she's not a fun parent because she does take on all of the necessary roles on a day-to-day basis. And the article was saying that when you look at heterosexual couples, that it tends to be that the mother is the one that takes on the necessities, like ordering the diapers, like cleaning and feeding them, and all the other stuff that needs to be done to take care of a child. Whereas then the guy might be the one who does play. And it's not saying that play is easy. No, it's certainly not. But I think she was saying that the child's perception is that play is the more fun role from the child's perspective. So the child is now viewing both parents. The mom is just like the one who does everything for a day-to-day basis, but a child's not thinking, wow, my mom just cooked me the most amazing meal. I'm so happy. At 3 years old, she's thinking, wow, daddy just played with me and did this, this, and this. He's fun.
Okay, I get that, but let's put this scenario forward then. Let me offer this. Switch for a day. Mm-hmm. No, the mom would be miserable and the dad would be fine because cooking is not so horrendous. It's not so hard. It's nice to cook sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy to be a good cook, so that's not what I mean. But I mean, the process of cooking is not the same challenge of sitting there and the patience you need to answer question after question, to play with fake food for 2 hours, to have tea parties for 4 hours. Those are much more challenging than getting on, Amazon Prime and ordering food. Yeah, I understand those are the necessities, but she was saying, I don't like doing the fun stuff. So anyway, clearly, you need to have some sort of breakdown. But what if they switched? I bet you she'd be miserable switching and he'd be fine. That's why I'm saying it's just a bit of a cop-out. Because, yes, if your husband is only doing 1 hour, you guys got to be split more equitably. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue there. Mm-hmm. But I still think that having fun is actually more challenging than the cooking. And it's a cop-out for her because she likes cooking, so she likes that role. And now she's feeling a little bit guilty. So maybe there's a little part of that, the kids like the dad better because he does the play and don't see what mom does. That's a good point, but I still think what she's doing is easier and it's a cop-out.
Yeah,
as long
as
they're splitting 12 and 12. As long as they're splitting it. Like the whole story you're telling about women typically taking on more of the day, that's clearly not fair. The story, as she mentioned, of the mom having to work in the kitchen where the distractions, where the dad gets to go to the home office, all of that's not fair. I'm talking about her ambivalent feelings about the dad playing and her not wanting to play.
Like I said, I can relate in that I was thinking about this the other day, that the amount of work that goes into just maintaining the home and everything that is needed for the children on a daily basis and disciplining takes a lot out, and it doesn't leave a ton of room. But I do, like you said, we're not talking about an even split here. So I tend to do all of that and also play with them. But I do feel that a lot of times, he may be viewed as the more fun parent because he's not the one disciplining on a regular basis, and somebody has to.
I do most of the house managing and the getting food and the straightening up. So, you can make all those arguments. It doesn't really apply to what we're doing here. We both find the sitting and playing the games when she's not allowed to have play dates, she's not allowed to go to school. And so we're not only the parent, but we're also the play dates. Right. We both find that to be what you need the break from. And frankly, going to cook a meal is a nice break.
Yeah.
So I don't relate to her frustration unless her husband is really not doing anything else.
Right. I understand what you're saying, Marshall. So let's talk more coming up in a few minutes. I know you were telling me before that you thought maybe you were coming down with the virus. You had some symptoms. And so I'm curious your take on if you do feel like you're getting sick as far as whether or not you should isolate yourself from your child. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. We're speaking with Marshall Stevenson, dad and founder of the New York Beer and Brewery Tour. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson. I'm here with my good friend. He's a dad. He's a comic, the owner of the New York Beer and Brewery Tour, Marshall Stevenson. Hi, Marshall.
Hey.
Hey. So we were talking about before the break. You were telling me that you started feeling some symptoms the other day. You thought, am I coming down with the virus? Am I not? And I'm just curious because I have to go into New York City in a few weeks and I'm a little afraid to do so. I have to tell you, as somebody who always loved the city, I'm afraid to go in because I have been isolating myself here in Connecticut and not going anywhere. And I'm just curious, if you came down with symptoms or your wife does, would you quarantine yourself away from your child? Or would you just say if she's going to get it, she's going to get it?
Man, it's such a hard thing because, I live in the Bronx, which has which now they're doing the antibody testings and they're coming up with 27% of people tested for antibodies are positive.
Okay.
So everybody's getting it. Now, until a few days ago, when there's been evidence that kids are coming down with the related disease to COVID, there was no evidence that children were even in any danger zone whatsoever. But it's so hard. Like, you come down. I figured I come down with some symptoms. I don't think I have it anymore, but I did for a few days. I was getting chills. I was getting a sore throat. First of all, we live in a one converted 2-bedroom apartment with one bathroom. The first thing I said is, if I, with the incubation period, like up to 2 or 3 weeks, I think that, and the level of contagion that this is, and the fact we're in the Bronx, if I have it, we all have it.
Right.
So the level of inconvenience, we already all have it. You just haven't shown symptoms yet, or you're going to be asymptomatic. So the level of sacrifice that you would have to make to quarantine yourself when you're probably doing absolutely no good whatsoever, what are you losing? When I'm not going to hug the kid? What if we both have it and nobody hugs the kid for 4 weeks? It's the dangers of doing it that way. So I figure, you're in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City. If somebody has it, you all have it. You might as well stay a unit. Just try to be as healthy as possible, and don't leave the house to spread it.
Right. Exactly. I wonder how many people know that they have it and they still go out anyway because they feel they need to get their fresh air or they need to go to the store.
You certainly need to go to the store. There's been challenges getting food delivery, so I don't begrudge anybody going to the store, although we've been successful getting deliveries. Yeah, I think if you have to go outside, you wear a mask, and I think that mitigates the issue to enough of a degree. I mean, the mask actually protects other people much more than it protects you.
Right.
So they did like a chart. So if you're in the elevator, which is always with elevators, is concerning. There's COVID in the building, we have elevators. If you're wearing a mask and the other person isn't, then if that other person has it, you have a much greater chance of picking it up than that person does if you have it. The mask prevents your saliva from getting in the air. So I wouldn't worry too much if you have it about going out, as long as you practice the social distancing. You wear the mask, you try to stay 6 feet away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, I was really annoyed. I don't know if I told you, I had to go drop something off at one of the labs the other day. And the person at the lab collecting my specimen did not have a mask on. And I wanted to say something. I don't know. I should have said something. And my whole thinking was just get out of there as quickly as you can. But I couldn't believe it.
See, that person, if that person is infected and don't know it, you're infected now.
Exactly.
That's the way. It's not, even if you're wearing one. That's what they say.
Exactly. And that person has been around how many people all day? So you don't know if he's carrying it from any of the people that came into that lab that day. And I went in at the end of the day and maybe he thought, oh, my day was over. I could just take it off now. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse until you're out of that building. You have to have it on. Clearly,
the moral of the story is you do have to come back to New York City because the people in Connecticut are idiots. That's a crack one joke if you're going to introduce me as a comic, but I have to. I'm obviously, there's so many idiots around here who are not doing it right. But yes, that's idiotic. This is somebody who was in a lab kind of a situation with interact with a lot of people not wearing a mask. That's just a recipe for spreading it.
Right, exactly. So we have 30 seconds left. So what does the rest of your day look like with your daughter today?
It's one of these things where you just hope she continues her nap, and then when she watches Frozen, which she seems to watch at least part of it every day, and then it's just a matter of let's fill the wall with these materials and let's do this, whatever she suggests. I don't know what the day looks like.
Well, you're very fortunate, and please give her my best. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, Marshall, I look forward to talking again soon, and I hope you stay healthy and stay sane. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.